We are starting today with a number that I honestly found difficult to ignore. If you look at the data on heterosexual intimacy, men reach orgasm about 95% of the time. It's almost a given.
Right.
But for women in those same encounters, that number drops to, what, about 65%?
It's a massive disparity. In the research community, this is, what we call the pleasure gap.
And when you see a gap that wide, the immediate assumption, or at least the cultural one we've all sort of absorbed, is that female biology is just difficult.
That it's complicated.
Yeah, like it's a riddle that's harder to solve.
That's the prevailing idea, yes. That female sexuality is mysterious, or even a bit dysfunctional compared to the male default. But the data completely contradicts that.
How so?
Well, if you look at women masturbating alone or women with female partners, that gap just evaporates. Orgasm rates shoot up to the 85, even 90% range.
Which suggests the machinery works just fine.
Exactly.
It isn't a hardware failure, it's an operating error.
Precisely. It suggests that the context and the method are the variables, not the biology itself.
So that's the mission for this deep dive. We're going to try to debug this system. We're pulling from a stack of medical journals, the Kinsey Institute's research, and some really detailed anatomical guides from the RFSU in Sweden. We want to strip away the mystery and look at the actual mechanics.
The biology, the psychology, the whole picture.
To figure out why that gap exists and, more importantly, how to close it.
And we are going to replace the idea that female sexuality is broken with the understanding that it is simply different.
Okay, let's start with the biology, the hardware. Because I think most people believe they know what the clitoris is.
Right.
You ask someone on the street to draw it, they'd probably just put a dot on a piece of paper, that little button at the top of the vulva.
And they would be pointing at the glands. But saying the glands is the clitoris is like saying the tip of the iceberg is the whole iceberg.
Hey, it's bigger.
Oh, much bigger. The RFU guide is excellent on this. What you see on the outside is maybe 10% of the actual organ.
So where is the rest of it? I mean, if it's not on the surface, where is it?
It's all internal. The clitoris is a massive, complex structure that's anchored to the pubic bone. If you could see through the skin, it looks remarkably like a wishbone.
A wishbone? Like the Thanksgiving kind?
A very similar shape, yeah. You have the glands, the visible head on the outside, but internally, the structure splits into two legs. They're called the crura.
Okay.
And these legs run about 9 centimeters down along the pelvic bone.
9 centimeters? That's significant. That's a lot of internal real estate.
It is huge. And then, nestled between those legs, you have what are called the vestibular bulbs.
Okay, help me visualize bulbs.
Yeah.
Where are they in relation to everything else?
Think of them as two large pods of erectile tissue that basically wrap around the vaginal canal.
So when a woman gets aroused,
this whole system, the glands, those long legs, and these bulbs, it all fills with blood. It swells up. So physically, the engorged clitoris is actually hugging the vagina from the outside.
that completely changes the context of that whole vaginal orgasm versus clitoral orgasm debate.
Oh, absolutely.
I remember hearing that Freud called clitoral orgasms immature.
Freud has a lot to answer for there. He argued that a mature woman transfers her sensitivity to the vagina, but biologically that's just nonsense.
Aye.
The vagina itself has very few nerve endings compared to the clitoris. The glands alone has between 6,000 and 8,000 nerve endings.
Wow.
That's more concentrated sensitivity than any other part of the human body.
So when someone says they had a vaginal orgasm, what's actually happening physiologically?
They're almost certainly stimulating the internal parts of the clitoris, those legs and bulbs through the vaginal wall. The pressure inside is hitting the internal structure. It's all one system.
This explains the pleasure gap statistic perfectly then.
It really does.
If the whole design relies on this big internal and external structure, then standard intercourse, which is just friction inside, might not be hitting the right buttons at all.
It often misses the mark entirely. Penile vaginal intercourse alone just doesn't provide enough direct stimulation to the glands or enough pressure on that internal structure. It's not a dysfunction. It's just geometry.
Okay, so that's the hardware. The machine is built for pleasure, but it's bigger and more complex than we think.
Right.
But you can't run a complex machine without the right software. And this is where the psychology comes in.
Exactly. This brings us to the Kinsey Institute and the dual control model. This is probably the most important framework for understanding human desire that's come out in the last few decades.
I was reading through their work, and they use this car analogy that I found really helpful.
They do. They suggest our sexual response system isn't just one on-off switch. It's two separate pedals. You have an accelerator.
The sexual excitation system.
And you have a break the sexual inhibition system.
The accelerator seems pretty straightforward. That's the stuff that turns you on.
Visuals, touch, fantasies, smell, anything that sends a go signal to the brain. But the break is where it gets interesting and honestly where most of the problems lie.
The stop signal.
Right. And crucially, the model breaks this down into two types of breaks.
What's the difference?
Well, the first break, SIS1, is basically performance anxiety. It's that internal worry. Am I doing this right? Do I look okay? Is this taking too long?
The internal critic. That voice in your head that just won't shut up.
Exactly. The second break, SIS2, is about external consequences. Is it safe here? Could I get pregnant? Are the kids awake? Did I lock the door? It's the brain scanning for threats.
So if you feel like you have a low sex drive, it might not be that you don't have enough gas. It might be that your parking brake is jammed on.
That is the breakthrough insight. We spend so much energy trying to stomp on the accelerator, adding more gas with romance or lingerie. But if the brake is engaged, if you're stressed or feeling unsafe, you're not going anywhere.
You're just revving the engine in neutral.
And eventually you just get exhausted.
This leads to another huge misconception. The way we think desire actually starts. I think most of us grow up with this Hollywood model, lightning strikes and you're instantly ready to go.
That's called spontaneous desire. And the research shows that about 75% of men experience desire that way. It hits them out of the blue. It's a mental event first.
But for women?
For the majority of women, and actually a fair number of men too, desire is responsive.
Meaning desire comes second. That feels totally counterintuitive.
It does, because we're taught the other way is the right way. But think of it like appetite. Spontaneous desire is getting hungry at noon and deciding to find food.
Okay.
Responsive desire is sitting down at dinner, not feeling particularly hungry, but you take a bite of something really delicious and suddenly you realize, oh, actually, I am hungry. I want more of this.
That is a crucial distinction. Because if you have responsive desire, but you're waiting for spontaneous desire to strike,
you will wait forever. And you'll probably think you're broken because you never just feel like it.
So practically, you almost have to trick your brain. You have to start the physical stuff before your mind is fully on board.
You have to trust the process, create a low-stress context, release the brake, and then engage in stimulation to see if the accelerator kicks in. You let the body convince the mind.
But here's the problem. That takes time. And time seems to be what we're all short on. I was looking at the stats on latency, the time it takes to reach orgasm, and the difference is pretty stark.
It is. The Journal of Sexual Medicine published data showing that for men in partnered sex, the average time to orgasm is about 4 to 7 minutes.
Which is efficient, a quick turnaround.
Very. Now, for women in partnered sex, the average is 15 to 20 minutes.
So there's at least a 10-minute gap there. One person's crossing the finish line while the other is maybe just getting warmed up.
But here's the twist, and this goes back to our intro. When women masturbate alone, their time to orgasm drops to about 8 minutes.
Wait, really? It cuts in half.
Almost. It becomes much, much closer to the male timeline.
So why does adding a partner slow everything down so much?
You introduce two problems. First, what we call cognitive load. When you're alone, you're 100% focused on sensation. With a partner, you start spectatoring.
Spectatoring, that's a specific term, right?
It is. It's when you stop experiencing the sex from inside your body and start watching yourself have sex from the outside. You're worrying about how you look, your partner's pleasure, if you're taking too long.
So the brake kicks in again. You're judging the performance instead of feeling the sensation.
Exactly. Distraction kills the signal. But there's also a cultural script at play here called the coital imperative.
That sounds incredibly official.
It's the idea that real sex equals penetration. If a couple believes the goal is penetration, they often rush past all the oral or manual stimulation that the clitoris actually needs.
And we know from the anatomy that the whole system needs time to engorge, to swell up.
Right. And there's this thing called arousal non-concordance. This is really important. A woman's body might be lubricating, which looks like readiness, but that's often just an initial reflex. Her brain and her erectile tissue aren't fully engaged yet.
So if you rush based on that one visual cue, you're trying to run the software before the hardware has even booted up.
That's a perfect way to put it. You're forcing the system.
So we have this complex anatomy, a braking system jammed by stress, and a timing mismatch. How do we actually fix this? The research points to something that sounds a bit buzzwordy. Mindfulness.
Mindfulness is the answer to everything these days. But in this specific case, the study from Dr. Laurie Brotto and Dr. Rosemary Basson is incredibly compelling.
Okay, tell me about it.
They took women with low sexual desire and put them through just 4 sessions of mindfulness-based therapy.
4 sessions isn't much. Did it work?
It did. They saw significant improvements in desire, arousal, and lubrication.
Why? Is it just about relaxing?
It's more mechanical than that. Mindfulness is the direct antidote to spectatoring. It trains your brain to stay in the present sensation, the feeling of a hand, the texture of the sheets, rather than drifting off into your to-do list.
It forces the brain to pay attention to the accelerator.
And it manually releases the brake. By focusing on the now, you shut down that fight or flight stress response and activate the rest and digest system. You physically cannot get aroused if your body thinks it's managing a crisis.
This also makes me rethink the word foreplay.
I hate that word. I think it does so much damage.
Because it implies it's just the opening act.
Exactly. It suggests it comes before the real thing. But given the anatomy we just talked about, for many women, the oral and manual stimulation is the main event.
Right. It's not the salad before the steak, it is the steak.
Penetration might be a nice addition, but for a huge number of women, it shouldn't be the main course if the goal is orgasm.
It seems like solving the pleasure gap isn't about buying new toys or trying crazier positions. It's really just about understanding the operating manual.
It's about clitoracy, to borrow a term. Knowing the clitoris is an organ that needs time. Knowing that direct touch on the glands can be too much for some women and that indirect is better. And knowing that desire is something you can cultivate, not just something you wait for.
It really reframes the whole experience. It stops being about fixing a woman's low drive and starts being about creating the right context for her system to work.
And this isn't just about having a good time. The World Association of Sexual Health recently declared sexual pleasure a cornerstone of overall health. It's tied to emotional resilience, relationship stability.
So we're talking about a public health issue, really. It's about well-being.
We are, and I want to leave you with a thought. For centuries, we've viewed male sexuality fast, spontaneous, goal-oriented as the standard model. Anything different was seen as complicated or slow.
The female model was the anomaly, the problem to be solved.
Right, but what if we flipped it? What if we viewed the female model context-dependent, responsive, gradual as the more sophisticated, comprehensive standard?
If we did that, we'd probably stop rushing.
We would stop rushing. We would prioritize connection over performance. We wouldn't just improve women's lives. I think we would drastically improve men's sex lives, too. It's not about making women function more like men. It's about realizing that the slow build might actually be the better way for everyone.
That's a powerful shift in perspective. The mystery isn't a mystery, it's just a different map. And, frankly, a map worth exploring. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
My pleasure.
Stay curious.